Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Anime Night in the Dojo. Today's featured show, MF Ghost, Season 3.
Yep, MF Ghost, Season 3, Episode 8. Welcome back to the dojo. I'm Ryu. Sage, we're back for more Anime Night in the Dojo. And well, last week, Emma showed up, spoke some English. That was weird. I got to make fun of the Vantage. That still just bothers me. I don't know. Maybe other people don't have a problem with it. Once again, I don't know. It's not like I'm a huge fan of that car or something, and I'm like, it's like a personal slight to me or something. But I don't know. I don't know. But either way, we're moving right along. We did that check on the source material, and we're like a little over halfway. We did see in live chart recently. I don't know how recent, but there's in TBA, meaning to be announced, that MF Ghost, the final season, is next up on the slate. So, that's questionable. Just because, there's 2 races left. So...
Yeah, we're only like halfway through the source material, so if we're only getting one more season, they're either going to have to skip a lot of stuff, or it's going to have to be an extended season, like multi-core season.
Yeah, because, again... I probably will read this like I did with Fire Force, kind of just like skim through it just to see like if everything like lines up, that kind of thing. Since, I know what's going on, I would just be looking for inconsistencies and differences, that kind of thing. I've gotten pretty good at that over the years. It only took me like 25 minutes to read those 50 chapters of Fire Force because I was like, yep, that's the same, that's the same, that's the same, that's the same. You know what I mean? So, not saying that this might be the same thing, but still. Yeah, so if the next season is the final season, then I assume 2 cores and stuff like that. If it's only 1 core, then I don't see how that's gonna happen. It's one thing with what they're doing with Fire Force and stuff like that, but that would be like, they're squeezing like 80 chapters into that Fire Force thing. That would be like squeezing in like 110 chapters into one season. Even more than that. So that's... I don't know. That's probably not happening, but maybe they're just going to do a 2-core because, the source material did end last year. Almost a year ago now at this point. It's been like 8 months, something like that, whatever. But as we speak right now, April of 26. But yeah, so that was kind of an interesting thing that I saw. That because, it's one thing if you look at it and go MF Ghost Season 4, but yeah. It distinctly says the final season. And not all anime do that. You know what I mean? Recently, My Hero Academia did that, but usually, final season of stuff is just like, I don't know, just like season 4 or something. If it goes 4 seasons, that kind of thing. It doesn't. It very rarely says the final season. They might mention it like, hey, this is going to be the final season of XYZ show, but it's usually not titled the final season. So. Maybe that's kind of a shift that they're going to just for, I don't know. I know a lot of Let's Players on YouTube, like, when they get to, like, say, part 10 of whatever they're playing, like Resident Evil Requiem, they'll put, like, a little thing there that says, like, end, like, this is the last thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. But either way, that was just something that caught our eye. We'll talk about it a little bit after this the season's over, once we get toward the last episode here in a couple weeks. I'll just kind of look at like, okay, so we just finished this, how many do they have to adapt for the final season, and then we could like break it down now that we know that's a thing. So yeah, but either way, I believe the qualifying for the next race is going to start up here. We'll have to see what's going on with Emma. The love rhombus of terror, whatever happens with that. So there's a bunch of stuff going on. Yeah, the Parabola of Mystery. So we'll just have to see. But yeah, we're going to push some buttons and get going here. So people on Patreon, we'll see you on the other side of the edit for the time reaction. People on YouTube Beyond, we'll see you on the other side for the discussion and review. And links to all the various places for whatever you want to watch are right down there for your convenience. So watch whatever you feel like. So here goes some. Well, alrighty then, there you guys have it. Another episode's in the books. We got a bunch of stuff going on. The end of summer typical festival stuff. We got to talk a little bit about that during the reaction. How Japan is really like more culturally in tune with the season, stuff like that. It was kind of an interesting thing that Ren's mom talked about. And when you think of countries that are like super in tune with the changing of the seasons and celebrating it and like moving on to the next season and stuff like that, and like kind of like honoring the season that's gone by, Japan's up there. You know what I mean? If bare minimum top 5. You know what I mean? There are several other like probably smaller countries out there that do similar cultural stuff, but Japan has always been a just, what do you even want to call that? Like culturally in tune with, like, you could call it nature and just like the significance of that kind of thing. You know what I mean? I know these days there are a lot of countries that are moving away from fireworks for various reasons, like safety concerns, things with like pets and whatnot. So they're going to like, I know like China especially is doing like drone shows that are basically doing the same thing as fireworks, except, there's no sound outside of probably like music and stuff like that. That isn't going to be like taxing on the ears, or obviously the fire hazard's gone unless a drone like crashes and burns or something. You know what I mean? But it's far less of a problem, generally speaking. I don't think a drone crashing is going to cause as much harm as like a firework landing on a roof and lighting like a flower bed on fire or something. You know what I mean? So I know there's a lot of countries that are moving away from fireworks for safety concerns and pet stuff and other reasons. Sound stuff, because, there are noise ordinances, especially in America. I don't know in other countries if that's a thing. But it's just it's generally safer and probably less expensive, and you can reuse drones. You can't reuse fireworks. They're fire and they're done. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like fireworks, cause a lot of issues, especially with the sound, because they can damage your eardrums depending on how close you are when they go off, and then they freak animals out and cause all sorts of problems with like local wildlife, and or if there's any sort of like farms or pets in the local area, it can cause all sorts of problems with them.
Right. It just kind of reminds me of this one like YouTube short that they were showing off like this one dog that was like super hyped on fireworks, and whenever this dog would see fireworks, it'd be super excited. And the caveat was it was deaf. So it was always like super fascinated by fireworks, and it's just like, what's with your dog? How is it not freaking out? It's like, oh, she's deaf, so she just likes it. It's like, well, yeah, that would probably do it. So yeah, that was always kind of interesting. It's like, man, just like random stuff like that. But it's
so once again, freaking fireworks are potentially damaging even to human ears, and human ears aren't nearly as sensitive as most animals' ears.
Yeah, so it's one of those things that'll be interesting to see just in the future, if that is like where the majority of countries go when it comes to celebrations like this, because you can pretty much recreate a fireworks show with drones. I've seen a couple drone shows at Dodger Stadium, that kind of stuff. They did stuff for like HoloLive, like when they had the HoloLive nights there the last couple of years. They've done drone shows, and they've like put, like Gura, when she was still part of it, like all the other members that, their faces would come up in like or like their entire silhouette would come up in drone form, that kind of thing. And that was pretty cool. I mean, I'm not like, I don't think fireworks are bad per se, but there are concerns with them, that we just talked about. And if anything, drones are just the natural evolution of it. You know what I mean? Obviously the impact that sound has on any experience will be taken away with drone stuff. But you kind of have to just weigh the pros and the cons, obviously. And you're getting 95% of what you'd get out of fireworks with a drone show. You know what I mean? And arguably you can do more stuff with it more quickly. You know what I mean? You're not setting up like another salvo, or there's a lot of safety concerns that are alleviated, like the people who have to put it together. You know what I mean? Like worrying about where they might potentially land. That's why a lot of that stuff is done over water. Just, you know what I mean? So it will be interesting to see. I don't know if fireworks will ever truly go away. You know what I mean? But a lot of the bigger celebrations that are like run by like major metropolitan areas, like here in Gunma or Saitama, wherever the heck they are, Odawara, but it's just major metropolitan areas that like have that as part of like a summer festival, like at the end of summer festival like this. They might move more toward that, but like maybe more rural areas that don't have like big time budgets or whatever. Drones are expensive, but again, they are also reusable. So as long as you take care of your drones, if you spend like, I don't know, 20 grand on drones for your show, eventually you'd spend 20 grand on fireworks. You know what I mean? So
yeah, fireworks are pretty expensive, especially like big shows like that, because like mortars are you have to, actually have the mortar itself and then the actual fireworks.
Right. So it's,
which, depending on the actual complexity, can, like I said, get very expensive.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, when we're talking about budget as well, it's just like an interesting thing to think about. Is once again, you need the mortars for the fireworks. You need the fireworks. Yes, you keep the mortars, obviously, because those can keep firing as long as they're maintained. But once the firework is fired, it's gone. When the case of the drones, they just have to be recharged. You know what I mean? So either way, that was something interesting to think about. But this episode, a lot going on, with the end of summer stuff. Kaneda basically openly admitting that he likes Ren, obviously, called her the cutest girl in the world, then openly admits it to Aiba, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. The whole romantic rival thing, I think that's a non-starter, especially with the thing that we saw with like the flashback to Aiba talking to Kyoko in like the second year of MFG from like what was that, like 3 years ago then in the timeline, because they're in year 5, I believe.
It was 2 years ago, according to the flashback.
Right, yeah.
They had it had been 2 years. It was 2 years prior to this, so it was the 3rd year of MFG when that happened.
Yeah. So either way, that's kind of, once again, we mentioned the parabola of mystery when it comes to the relationship stuff here, and that's probably the direction it's going to go, because we talked about like the age difference and stuff like that, and like Aiba's age to Ren's age would be technically, it's not wrong or illegal or anything, but it's generally frowned upon as of that age gap.
Yeah, like
because he's 24 or whatever, 25. He's like the same age as Kyoko, so that's obviously the direction they're pushing it in with.
Well, we don't know Kyoko's age. It's implied she's in her like early 30s, that she's like quite old for an angel.
Yeah.
Because most of the other angels are like freaking just out of high school and early college and stuff like that.
Yeah. But that definitely seems the way they're pushing it. And it'll be interesting to see if we get the Sawatari monkey wrench at some point, especially with the whole, now Ren freaking out that she's, it's been put in her head by her friends that, Kaneda is going to leave Japan after this year. So, Sawatari is the kind of guy who would probably prey on that kind of information. So we'll just have to see. I'm not saying that he's a total douche canoe. You know what I mean? He had that whole, a semi-elitist, like, oh, you're not going to remember me. And then it's like, oh, you remember me. Okay, I'm not going to be a dick to you. You know what I mean? So he completely changed his tune. Like, oh, well, okay, that's cool.
From what we've seen of Sawatari, he's not a total asshole. He's just, again, he is a...
He has kind of an inferiority complex. Something like that. But he's also not lacking confidence, obviously. So
yeah, he's not really much of an asshole. He's just a deviant.
Yeah. So that's not the worst thing you can be, obviously. Like, so he only dates 17-year-olds. At a certain point, he'll probably stop. Hopefully.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, it's like he only dates 17-year-olds, but eventually he'll probably find someone he wants to actually get serious with and do more than just date.
Yeah. So, again, we got Ogura freaking out, that was fun. We got the upgrades to the 8.6. We got the callback to, this place in Gunma, that kind of thing. This was a major place in Initial D. So it was nice to see that place. Obviously, the upgrades that we talked about, the obvious changes, the rear wing, more downforce, that kind of thing. Kind of explains it in the episode. I don't really have to go into detail. That's how downforce works. The more downforce you have, the more you stick to the road, the faster you can go. That's simple. So,
yeah.
Anyway, we got...
Which is going to come into play in this race in particular because we have the jump section.
Right. So that's going to be a thing. That's something we also have to get to here is when we talk about the course itself. But once again, we got a little bit more on these two. It's been a while since we had the two siblings. But, if she gets more inserted into the parabola of romantic madness, because they did tease that in season 1.
Yeah,
let's not forget that she has a crush on Kaneda.
Yeah, lest you forget, she also has a crush on Kaneda and was like the original romantic rival to Ren.
Yeah, so I can't imagine they forgot about that.
Lately.
You know what I mean? I can't imagine the author forgot about that, especially with this where, the whole thing is like, yeah, you better pull over and talk to me. You know what I mean? So I assume that we'll probably be pushing that a little bit more now, especially since the major part of, Kaneda, we're not looking for Kaneda's dad in the off time anymore. So now it's going to be more relationships and romantic stuff as opposed to looking for his dad because of what happened. So this is probably the author reintroducing Nozomi. This is like the reintroduction to the romantic rivalry shenanigans, the episode, pretty much. That was like half of the episode. You know what I mean? So
yeah, we're just setting up for his original reason for being here. Once again, was his dad, but now that the dad is no longer his reason for being here, we need to set up for a new reason to be here, which is going to be the romantic side of things.
Right. And it's just gotten worse from what we thought it was going to be originally. I kind of wrote Nozomi off because, I kind of forgot about her, honestly. But it's like, so you got the triangle of Ren, Kaneda, and Aiba, and then you throw the monkey wrench that is Sawatari, that I will be surprised if it doesn't happen. Will I be disappointed? Not really, but the writing's kind of on the wall. We've talked about it. You know what I mean? So then you re-add Nozomi. Emma is now a thing. You know what I mean? You could throw Kyoko in there because of her interest to Shun. So it's just absolutely ridiculous. It is insane.
Aiba's interested in Ren. Kyoko's interested in Aiba. Emma, Nozomi, and Ren are all interested in Kaneda.
You know what this reminds me of, actually?
Sawatari's potentially interested in Ren. Aiba's interested in Ren.
Yeah.
Kaneda's interested in Ren.
This reminds me of the... in My Dress Up Darling, they have a lot of like the in-universe, like the anime that they watch and stuff like that like magical girl show with like the 18 different directions where like this character likes this character and then the two guys are together, but the like Black Lobelia likes this guy, but the heroine likes him. It was that one's out of control. That's basically what this is.
the whole thing with that was like that, like all of the different magical girls liked one of the two guys, but all of the fans, like freaking Mari and whatnot, all were shipping the guys together.
Yeah, and it was based on what they showed of that show inside of the show. That seemed like it was a thing, because whenever they showed the two guys, it definitely looked like they were together. So, yeah, it was ridiculous. But that's what it feels like this is. It's out of control. might have to get a chart going. So... if I have some time, I'll put a chart together of how this looks and have Victoria throw it up at some point. But yeah, it's getting ridiculous. And I guess it's more of a lighthearted thing than the super serious stuff with Kaneda's dad going on in the background. And maybe the author wanted to move away from that for some reason. I don't know exactly why. But I don't know. But again, based on how this author has written romance in the past with Initial D, there was only one person who succeeded, and that was Takumi. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the romance in freaking Initial D just kind of didn't happen.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was the late '90s, so it was different, and the author has probably evolved since then. That kind of, still, it's like.
I mean, yeah, he's already handled freaking the romance subplots in this way better than Initial D.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we'll have to see. As it stands right now, yeah, the way I most likely see it is because we keep playing her up as much as we have, like focusing on her and stuff like that, I feel like we might actually be building towards the idea of like Sawatari's going to start pursuing Ren, but realizes that he finally actually has legitimate feelings for his current girlfriend.
They do keep showing her.
Because they keep putting so much emphasis on her.
They showed her again in this episode, and she seems very invested in him. You know what I mean? If she didn't care, she wouldn't be watching the races. Even if she did seem reasonably not like super interested in it, but she, generally speaking, even if you're not a fan of like what, like, like if say whatever, Tom Brady's wife, she could absolutely just never watch any of his games, but she went to the games and stuff like that. Any partner, like, even if they're not a huge fan of whatever the others like interests are, they still support it in this case. There are very many relationships that you can read about on Reddit, or that I've personally seen, where somebody say like is into baseball and will go to baseball games, but their partner in either direction, whatever it is, they don't go with them ever. You know what I mean? They just don't participate in it. In the case of Sawatari's current girlfriend, even if she might not be super into the racing, she still at least watches him. You know what I mean? And they've shown that every time. She skipped class to watch him, even if she's not super into it. You know what I mean? Because I think I vaguely remember like her friend showing up like, oh, I can't believe you skipped class for that. I thought you weren't into racing or anything like that. Something like that. I think that was something that was said by one of her schoolmates or something like that. So it's fairly obvious that she's invested in him and really likes him, to the point where even if she's not into racing, she's going to at least watch him when he's there.
Yeah.
So that's something to keep an eye on in the background, because if that wasn't the case, they probably wouldn't show her much at all. And she's gotten more screen time than I thought she would from that kind of thing.
Yeah, like I said, they give her a lot of screen time. So I have a feeling that like we're still going to get the whole thing of like Sawatari's going to develop an interest in Ren once her like, now that her identity's like actually getting out there now and whatnot. But that ultimately, Ren's not going to go with him. It's going to be Ren and Kanata. And despite trying to pursue Ren, he's going to like come to some realization that he actually is has like serious romantic feelings for this current girlfriend.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But they wouldn't show her doing this. You know what I mean? I'd buy it more like if they showed her and she was just like in class and they just kind of like pass it off as her like not being interested. But every time he's on the track, they cut to her at least for a couple seconds, like this, right?
There basically is not any Sawatari screen time or like scenes or anything like that doesn't at least hint at her.
Yeah, they're either together or they show her like this. You know what I mean? So like the last time we saw them, they were at the beach together or whatever, that resort.
They're at like some resort or something. Yeah.
So that's something to keep an eye on. But going forward, internet quizzes. Whenever I see this, I will always point people to the Steven Universe "Which crying breakfast friend are you?" quiz. That's what this crap is to me. that was a perfect just shot at this kind of thing, and I'll always point at that because it was so hilarious in that show. But yeah, I'm not a fan of those things. Let's just move right past that, because then you end up like how Ren ends up. We have the romantic rivals discussion between these two. Okay.
To finish my thought process though, before I got randomly fucking derailed on trying to explain the Sawatari stuff. I'm pretty sure Sawatari's going to end up with his current girlfriend. Aiba's going to end up with Kyoko. Kanata's going to end up with Ren. And we don't really have any sort of anything for Nozomi yet.
Yeah.
Emma probably will stick around for the final race. But then she's probably just going to nope out once the race is over and it's like official that Ren and Kanata are together.
Yeah. Could there be some curveballs in there? Sure. But generally speaking, from a writing perspective, the writing's on the wall for most of these kinds of things. You know what I mean? The setup is usually there, and very rarely do you see a outside of a harem scenario, a character go with something that you wouldn't expect. You know what I mean? For these kinds of situations, you can kind of see the path they're on, that kind of thing. Like, well, look at the path that Naruto and Hinata took in Naruto. You know what I mean? The writing was there from freaking the first series. You know what I mean? So
yeah, most of the time you can usually figure which way it's gonna go. There's usually some twists and turns, and sometimes like a legitimate like option gets introduced later on in the romantic interests. Like for Oron, for the majority of Oron, it's always freaking Haruhi and like the main host guy whose name I'm suddenly forgetting.
Right.
But then like halfway through the series, one of the twins becomes like a legitimate competition for him.
Right.
But then sometimes you do also have some series where they just kind of throw a curveball at the end and just go with something completely doesn't make sense. Like the freaking biggest example of that for me that I always think of is freaking Vampire Knight.
Right. And something to think about too from that that thing as well is one of probably the more interesting things that we still have to get back to, and I don't know if they get into it just yet. But in Kaguya-sama, not the main two, obviously, the gloomy guy, the gamer guy, he has two legit real options that's like 1A and 1B of like, okay, both of these make sense. This is a super difficult decision for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's constantly stuck in a state of like, will they, won't they, with both of them.
Yeah. So that's a relationship that I want to know the end to, because that one is, there is no like correct option. You know what I mean? They're both solid options for him, and I don't envy his position because I believe he's slowly realizing it at the point in the story that we left off on.
Yeah, like that's actually very rare, but also very interesting when it does happen, where you have a character like that who has multiple options that there is no real right answer for.
Yeah. So either way, it'll be interesting to see how those relationship things play out. Obviously, we had the backstory with Aiba being a decent human being and giving some gifts to the angels. We got a little bit more on him. Like, he gives gifts to the angels after before every time he qualifies, and nobody else does that. You know, he's a decent dude. You know, and once again, like the stuff we talked about in Fire Force earlier this week, if you remove, sex appeal and lust and stuff like that, population is going to fall off the table. You know what I mean? So everyone is a little pervy. Deal with it.
Yes, sexual interest is natural and necessary for the continuation of society.
Yep. So I think people really need to get over like, oh, I can't believe that you're doing this. Like, I find women attractive. What do you want me to do about that? I'm not gonna not do that. You know what I mean? It's like, what the hell? It's just like, oh, I'm sorry. You as a married person are trying to tell me that you are not attracted to your partner? That's interesting. There's a whole other discussion that we could get into then. You know what I mean? And that's a whole other can of worms. We're not going there. Absolutely not. I could go off on that kind of bullcrap for at least several hours, but we're not doing that here. But this episode had a lot in it. You know what I mean? The one thing that that we want to talk about here now at the end is the fact that this course has a lot going on. You know what I mean? We got they didn't really show it too much. They showed it when Sawatari went off the quote-unquote jump. I doubt it's an actual jump. It is probably a dip in the road that kind of like, dips relatively sharply. Like that.
Yeah, it's a hill into a sharp dip. So like
Yeah.
if you go at it with speed, then you end up jumping it.
Yeah, and you're not going to slow down for that in the course of this, so that brings a unique thing for the drivers to deal with, because these aren't rally cars. They're not like massively suspension based, and the rally cars that go to like Pikes Peak and stuff like that are for dirt and that kind of thing, and have massive suspensions that can take impacts and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see how certain vehicles might handle that. I will be interested to see if that becomes a problem during the race, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting thing, because this is not only the first race to implement course hazards like that, but this is also the longest race so far. And that it is, I think, like the second or third longest course, but also it's a 6-lap race. So you're going to have to hit that jump at least 6 times over the course of the race, as well as pushing the wear on your car because of how long the race is.
Right. So tire wear will come into effect there as well. The thing that they showed on Nozomi's lap was it also has something that I find ridiculous, because once again, this is a public road. Once again, this is technically street racing. Okay, I understand. This is like a reservoir, like a man-made waterfall. It's a reservoir. It's supposed to be scenic. It's man-made. It's like a seawall. This kind of looks like the place from Fire Force where Iris throws up her barrier to stop the pillar from killing people.
Yeah, I mean, these kind of
Japan has a lot of
places,
seawalls, so
Yeah.
But either way, so generally when I think of architecture like this, I think that's cool. When you're driving down the seaside, you can see like they did this waterfall to, obviously for scenic purposes, but more importantly for the reservoir overflowing and going back into the sea, what have you, that kind of thing. The problem I have with this is, generally speaking, when you have this kind of thing, the waterfall will be there, but then it'll, it's obviously a bridge or whatever. But here, it's going over the road.
Well, you can see it in this. You can see it in this frame. It does go under the road.
Yeah, it does go under the road.
It's just apparently if it like overflows, it can't get on the road as well, because Nozomi has to drive through it.
Yeah, you can see it here. So there's obvious. This is so random. Like, I don't know, because if you look at this right here is a reasonable speed section from the previous shot that I was on, going into a sharp left turn. And what happens when you
water hazard?
Yes, and this isn't just a small amount of water. This isn't surface layer. You can see her driving through it. This is at least like 2 inches of water. You know what happens when you do that? Hydroplaning happens. You know what's easier to happen when you have less tread on your tires? You hydroplane easier. So they better do something with this. That's all I'm saying. The jump is what it is. I'm sure that'll have something. This is the thing I'm slightly more interested in from the hazard standpoint. Because, yeah, you know what I mean? Even if that turn wasn't there and this was still a straightaway, you can still hydroplane when you're going straight.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, all of the courses so far have had some level of hazards to them, but this is by far the most extreme hazards. Like the only thing even comparable to this was actually back in the first race, which was the ash section where you couldn't really see very far in front of you.
Right. So, and they did talk about how each course was going to have its own unique quirks to it, like the ash on Mount Monozuru, what was it? It was like the tunnel in the previous race where they had to deal with the sun and stuff like that and that kind of thing. The single lane stuff. Every course has a unique aspect to it, and this one seems to be the jump, the drop. It's more of a drop than a jump, and then this waterfall section, which definitely kind of feels like they're forcing it, because even in this shot you can see right here, like, they have that barrier, but it looks like they've removed the barrier so that the water can come onto the road. Because there is no way that for a public road that they would allow this to happen. This
Yeah, no, like I
is
said,
a
you can see
man-made
that.
trap for this.
Yeah, like I said, you could see in the wide shot that it does normally go under the road.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're probably redirecting a portion of it to go on the road to like represent flooding or something, because the whole thing is that like each of the courses is supposed to have hazards related to like natural disasters
Right.
that affect that particular area. Like the ashes, the whole thing of it's like right next to Mount Fuji or whatever, and
Yeah.
like the eruptions, the lights are for like earthquakes causing power loss and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I like what they're doing with that. I'm glad the theme's still going, but I wasn't expecting waterfall on road. So yeah, especially with the whole 6-lap thing, which I don't remember entirely where they showed that. I think it was, yeah, here it is. I was like, I distinctly put the 8 minutes of the episode. So we got round 4, Seaside Double Lane. The final will be 6 laps. The track is 21.7 kilometers. So that means this is going to be almost 90
130.
kilometers. Right now. 6 times 2 is... No, this is going to be like 130 kilometers.
Yeah, it's gonna be like roughly 130.
So that's a lot. That's like almost 30 more kilometers than any of the other ones. I think all the other ones were around 90-ish, somewhere in there. So this is...
Yeah, like I said, this is the longest race so far. I don't remember the like full course statistics for like if it's the longest race in the entire series, but this is by far the longest race so far.
Yeah. So it will be interesting to see. I can't wait to see more of the course. They've done a good job showing like the entirety of each course, that kind of thing. So that should be fun. But going forward, the last little thing to mention here is the fact that it will be interesting to see going forward who Emma knocks out. And my top contenders for that are the BMW guy or the guy that they showed. I believe his name is Otani in the green. I think it's a Porsche. Or no, he's in an AMG. He's an AMG. So I think it's, since Taylor is already in 6th, he's probably fine. So since in the first 8 we have this here, Otani is probably going to be the one that gets knocked out since he's already at the bottom.
Yeah, like freaking Taylor, Otani, and Sakamoto are the 3 like kind of nobodies at the moment in the race. But Sakamoto has been kind of building up an actual established character in his like rivalry with Aiba.
Yeah.
So, like,
I don't think he's
watch
going
him.
anywhere. You know, Sakamoto is like the biggest of the tertiary drivers because of his rivalry with Shu. We got Taylor and his thing with Aiba, you know, that kind of thing, and Kaneda, so he's had a little bit more screen time. He had that actual after race interaction with Kaneda, that kind of thing. But Otani is the one that's gotten the least. You know what I mean? We still got the guy in the Lambo. Well, obviously, we still got Akiba. He'll be in there. Keisuke's apprentice, Captain Mole, he's going to get in. Yeah, in the Supra. So out of all the drivers that we've seen, it's probably going to be Otani. Especially since, you know, Ishigami's in 3rd, you know, he's still relevant. You know what I mean? So out of all these, she'll probably... I assume Emma will probably be top 6. I'm going to give her like 5th. You know what I mean? Because it's going to be the big 3 at the top. You know what I mean? And then she'll probably... Thinking about it, I'm going to say this. Thinking about it, she'll be 4th or 5th based on where they want to put Keisuke's apprentice.
I think she's going to outperform Keisuke's apprentice. I think Sawatari is going to stay the top here in the immediate. Kanata might pass him, but it's probably going to be 2nd. Beckenbauer is going to pass him, but I think Emma is actually going to be the other one to pass him. To where like the top 3 is going to be Beckenbauer, Emma, Sawatari, then Kanata, and then Aiba.
Right. Because keep in mind, from the last episode, when she was running the sim, she was within a half a second of Akiba's course record. So she's already probably... Akiba's course record right now where it stands is probably somewhere between Aiba and Ishigami. Something like that. Based on the fact that Sawatari was 3 seconds better than it.
Yeah, we didn't get Ishigami's time, but we know Sawatari was 3 seconds faster, and apparently
Shun was like
Aiba
a
was-
half a second behind Sawatari, something like that.
it was even less than that. I think it was like 2/5 of a second
Yeah,
behind
it was.
Sawatari.
Yeah, it was something short, very small. So yeah, a lot of interesting stuff going on with this. But if I have to pick somebody who's getting knocked out, it's Otani. It's a weird thing to say as a Dodgers fan because Shohei Otani is a big deal. He's probably not getting knocked out of anything. But this Otani, he's probably the one that's going to get knocked out for Emma because he's the one. It's either going to be Otani or the guy in the BMW, and I forget his name. It's going to be one of those two guys. And Otani has more screen time than the BMW guy, so yeah, I don't know. We'll just have to see. My money's on one of those two guys because the rest of them have established themselves at this point for even as minimally as they have. So either way, there was a lot to talk about in this one. The last thing I will say, Sawatari is a lion-ass bitch. He didn't change his car. He didn't say goodbye to Squat. He just upgraded it. You don't get bummed out when you upgrade your vehicle or make modifications. You get bummed out when you stop driving it. Absolutely. That's what they hinted at, what the author seemed to hint at, or at least what the team here hinted at. So I'm going to have to look up Alpine and see what other vehicles they make because I don't think he definitely didn't change vehicles. That was the same car. So,
Yeah, the only thing I can think is this might be the first time he's ever been actually forced to actually upgrade his car at all.
yeah, maybe he's saying like goodbye to the stock version. I guess you could argue that. A lot of people hold on to like their stock purists. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. So maybe that's what he is. But either way, this was a long one, but there was a lot to get into. So yeah, looking forward to more qualifying next time, the madness and what have you. Anything else, Age?
Pretty sure we got like everything.
Alrighty then. Well then, ladies and gentlemen, people of YouTube beyond, have you watching. As always, we appreciate you stopping by and hanging with us here in the dojo for more anime. This is MF Ghost, Season 3, Episode 8. So have a good morning, evening, afternoon, whatever it is for you. Have a good one. We'll see you next time.
Hey everyone, Victoria here. If you enjoyed the video, please consider pushing those like and subscribe buttons. Your support is greatly appreciated. Thanks again for your time, and we hope to see you again in the future.